So, today, let's get it started. Today, we have a very special guest. He is a dear friend of mine. He actually is a good friend of mine. He is basically a Kratom industry expert. He's been working in the industry for a minute. He owns a Kratom company, but is a very moral-forward Kratom company, okay? It's very much focused on just doing Kratom the right way, informing people about its dangers and its benefits. I'm a big fan of him, and he is actually currently working on like the whole like 7H shit. He knows a lot about what is going to happen with 7H, what like the legality, why they're doing it. We can talk about like we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, like even just kind of industry secrets, I suppose. Like the Kratom industry is surprisingly small. There's a lot of just big figureheads we can talk about, like who does this and who does what. It's going to be very exciting. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce everyone. Oh, wait, are you ready yet? Okay, he's ready. Oh, I'd like to introduce everyone to Soren Shade. Say hi,
Hello,
Soren.
chat. Hi, chat. Hi, Meta.
How are you doing, Soren?
Good. I'm happy to have this conversation with you, and I'm happy to hopefully dispel some myths about 7-hydroxymetragenine, about kratom, generally explore what's been going on around it, what will occur with it, and
Mm-hmm.
why it's so important in not only the kratom space, but also the broader drug space in sort of global context of how we reckon the balance between individual freedoms and public safety.
What? Someone said Superman joined chat. You do kind of look like Superman a little bit. Have you gotten that before?
I used to get Clark Kent comments a lot more. I had a square glasses.
Can
So
can everyone hear him good? Can everyone hear Soren good? I think we can all hear him good, but just wanted to make sure.
testing.
So, if oh wow, they're stroking you. Damn, he handsome. Okay, tone it down. Tone it down.
All right,
Okay, this is
I'm
my
not
show.
looking at the chat, everyone.
Yo, yeah, he can't see
If
the
you would like
chat,
to
so
send compliments, you can just email them to me,
don't
Soren
do
at
that.
toptiers.com.
Don't do that. Okay, so starting out, what is 7OH, Soren?
7-hydroxymetragenine is an alkaloid that is found in kratom leaves. Um, I think to understand 7-hydroxymetragenine, you first need to have at least a little background what kratom is. Kratom is a natural product that is it's a leaf, a tree leaf from Southeast Asia. It's been consumed for a very long time, usually chewed, brewed into a tea. Every now and then the leaves are dried, and then the pulverized leaves are consumed. And then sometimes those pulverized leaves are reduced of their leaf content and to only allow the alkaloids through an extract
Okay.
process, and then people sell the extract and consume it that way. And kratom is a polydrug. It has a number of different constituents in it, which have psychoactive effect.
Okay.
Um, and so they all work together in concert to produce the kratom psychoactivity that is apparently desirable given the amount of people who consume it regularly and how long people have been consuming it.
Now, can
Yeah,
you explain to the people just name some of these interesting compounds? So we have mitragynine, which is the main one.
yes, mitragynine, metragenine, mitragynine. There's a million ways to pronounce like every single one of these compounds that are in there. I mean, people might even be like, "What did he call kratom?"
Yeah,
Because I call
exactly.
it kratom. I call it kratom.
Yeah.
It Everyone has a different way of saying these. Just say it confidently and quickly, and people will know what you're talking about. So you have mitragynine, and then you have its three enantiomers. So the
Whoa,
way
whoa,
that
whoa. What the fuck
yeah,
is an
yeah.
enantiomer?
So for when you imagine a molecule, you might just be imagining a flat, two-dimensional stick and ball structure, just like lines and dots, carbons. Um, they're actually three-dimensional, which means that there's a left hand and a right hand, and depending on the It's called the chiral carbon, sort of like the centerpiece, which reflections can occur on a molecule. You can have
So
four, and
you're
metragine
talking
has four.
you're kind of similar. It's like kratom. There's or sorry, not kratom. There's ketamine. There's like S ketamine. There's R ketamine, and then racemic ketamine, which people debate on
Which
how
is a
different
mix.
they really are. But yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah. And
So
then
okay,
L-amphetamine, D-amphetamine, like, and those are sometimes enantiomers, despite them being identical molecules, just flipped based on, how well they can fit within the certain receptor. Some of the only some have activity and some don't. So, for example,
mm,
R methamphetamine is the psychoactive amphetamine. L methamphetamine is so non-psychoactive that it is the sole ingredient in Vicks vapor inhalers to open up your nostril, like your closed sinuses.
no way it acts. It doesn't. Wow, that's insane. Holy shit, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's still a vasodilator, but it doesn't cause the surge of
Psychoactive.
dopamine release that, yeah,
Is it? I mean,
or
would you
methamphetamine
notice?
does.
Would it still be classified as a sympathomimetic? The L methamphetamine?
A sympathomimetic. You have out drug nerded me, Meta.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anyways, we're getting tangential right here. So back to we got mitragynine or mitragynine. Okay. What are some other interesting compounds?
Yeah, so the stereoisomers are speciosolatinin, speciogynin,
Okay.
and hainanthin. And they all have different activity in the brain.
Hmm.
Um, and you have like isorancophylline, rancophylline, quernoxine. You have mitraphyline. And there have been about 50 different alkaloids that are suspected to have psychoactivity that have been found within the kratom leaf. Normally, though, it's about 5 to 8 that occur at amounts which one could say has an effect on the subjective effect of the kratom intoxication or inebriation
Got
or
it.
medicinal effect, whatever you want to call it. Um, so they all work in concert. And if you were to pull the others away, you would probably feel something, but something different in and of itself. And then of these molecules, even if you look at them alone and not in concert with the rest of the kratom alkaloids, they are not specific targets for any specific system within our central nervous system, generally. So mitragynine, if you've seen our Is Kratom and opioid video on Meta's very good second channel, you would know that we sort of explored the effects outside of the opioid effects of kratom when we administered naloxone and became cranky little whiny bitches for a little while.
But
Um,
and a bit of a translation. What he's saying is that these alkaloids or these compounds, these whatever you want to talk about them, they're not super clean, so they don't just hit one receptor. It's not like mitragynine does this to the mu opioid receptor. It's what he's saying is like it does this to the mu opioid receptor, but it also has other activity like serotonergic activity or adrenergic activity. So any of these one
exactly.
compounds doesn't do just one thing. It's not like a lot of other drugs that might just do one thing. This is like it's a pretty complex. Each one compound does a number of things in the body. Is what he's saying. Correct?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, and Meta used like a pretty common pharmacological term, which is a dirty or clean drug. That doesn't mean it's like one feels bad and one feels good. Like dirty doesn't mean bad and clean doesn't mean good. Clean is just sort of like it has precision in its binding within the central nervous system, and dirty means it's promiscuous, it
Mm,
touches a little bit everywhere. Yeah. And
mm,
mitragynine does that. But then in getting back to the focus of 7-hydroxy mitragynine, it occurs the debate is whether it is naturally occurring in kratom leaf, but it is present in every kratom product on the market,
mm,
either through the degradation of mitragynine in the drying process, or potentially it is biosynthetically produced within the leaf like every other alkaloid is. The jury's still out on that. I'm not convinced. Everyone seems to be saying that it's just a degradation product, but no one has explored the biosynthetic pathways full enough yet to, provide solid evidence to sort of wrap that debate up. And there's actually some people who believe that 7-hydroxymetragine is actually a a, a step in the biosynthetic production of other kratom alkaloids, which would mean that it is actually in the leaf. But this doesn't
So
matter.
so yeah,
In the
a bit of another translation. I don't know if you guys want these translations, but I'm gonna keep giving them. So tell me if you want these translations. But what he's saying is that there's a bit of a debate of so 7-hydroxy occurs in all kratom. The thing is that a lot of people will think like, oh, 7-hydroxy is like there's a lot of it in kratom. No, we're talking about like what is it like 0.007? It's an exceptionally low amount that is in kratom. So there's a debate on if the plant is actually producing 7-hydroxy or if it's actually just through the metabolism or the breakdown of mitragynine, because that's actually how we get most of mitragynine or 7-hydroxy. So 7-hydroxy, you do get it when you eat kratom mitragynine, but it's actually converted into 7-hydroxy in your blood.
in your liver.
In your liver. Thank you. Thank you. In your liver.
Yeah, yeah, because there are metabolites that are produced in the blood, but the 7-hydroxy is produced hepatically. So
Now some
it
some
is.
people. Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, when one consumes kratom, one does not immediately get the effects of 7-hydroxymetragenine, but one does eventually get the effects of 7-hydroxymetragenine. But
Mm.
one converts a minority of the metragenine in your body into 7-hydroxymetragenine. So if you take
Oh.
50 milligrams of metragenine, you're not going to get 50 milligrams of 7-hydroxymetragenine
Mm.
over time. You might get around 10 milligrams
Got it.
of, and that's sort of like higher end.
It is 10 milli. Oh, so you're not making that number up. It's around what, 20%?
A lot of people say 20%. Yeah. But I think that's sort of a higher end. See, this is the thing, like a lot of the science that is known is now being politicized by warring factions in the should 7-hydroxymetragenine be made illegal. So, some things like every kratom product has it is just leading to 7-hydroxymetragenine effects because it's metabolites of metragenine, and therefore there's essentially all kratom products are essentially 7-hydroxymetragenine products, which is true and not true at the same time. Because if you take a small enough amount of metragenine, say you take 10 milligrams of metragenine, which is sort of like threshold detectability, you
Mm-hmm.
might produce 1 to 2 milligrams of 7-hydroxymetragenine, which is not really detectable, especially if you have any sort of opioid tolerance.
Mm.
Because kind of rewinding what is 7-hydroxymetragenine, it is a it has high affinity for the mu opioid receptor, but it is a partial agonist, so it has a ceiling effect on it, sort
Yep.
of like buprenorphine, meaning
Yep.
that a, you can take 1 unit of 7-hydroxymetragenine and you get one effect. You can take 2 units of 7-hydroxymetragenine, you can take two, but then call two the
The
limiting factor, the
ceiling. Yep.
ceiling. Yeah, and then you take three, you might now be feeling the equivalent of 2.2 or 2.1. Then you take
Yeah.
four, it might be 2 point, yeah,
Yeah.
arbitrary numbers here.
What he's saying, and this is actually kind of goes back to one of the earlier chatters' questions or statements. They said, "Well, oxy, as in like oxycontin, 7-hydroxy is worse than oxy." Well, no. One of the major reasons what makes 7-hydroxy and pretty much all kratom so much better and safer is because there's a ceiling effect. So with oxy, let's say you take one oxy, or there's actually milligrams, but we're just going to simplify the math. One oxy, you get level 1 high. You take 2 oxy, you get level 2 high. With oxy, if you keep going, level 3 high, level 4 high. You keep going, and then you die. Okay? With 7-hydroxy, that's actually, there's a ceiling. So you'll take 1 and 1. And then you take 2 7-hydroxy, and then you get 2. But then past that, if you keep taking 7-hydroxy, you won't get higher. You'll probably just puke. That's what a partial agonist is. And oxycontin and heroin and fentanyl, they are not partial agonists, they are full agonists. Okay? And actually,
Yeah.
I was reading a paper, I think yesterday. Mitragynine has, I think, 34% 34% activity of the mu opioid receptor. Do you know anything about that? The percentages?
No, I'm not
Okay.
even sure what,
That
because
would
generally
mean
one use like the PKA. and the PI. So like the pH of a molecule is really important based on where you take the molecule in terms of how it can cross between membranes and then how it can eventually cross between the blood-brain barrier and then how whether or not it wants to donate a protein which or a proton which is how it sort of connects and links to a receptor. So that's generally a number that is thrown around in terms of affinity to receptors, and then the PKIs, how readily the molecule will displace something with a well-established binding affinity from the
Well,
receptor.
but
And
you're talking about affinity versus activity.
yeah, I'm not sure what
Activity, because I just maybe I need to read
35%
it.
is referencing. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll have to send it to you later on, but okay, that's very interesting. And let me just pause real quick. I'm actually going to. We'll have him right back. I'm just gonna adjust one thing in the live stream real quick, Cease. Meow 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 meow. Okay, Coolio. Okay, sorry. I'm just adjusting. I want to have the concurrent viewers and like the stream health so I can see like if we're lagging or anything like that. So we're now good. Oop. There we go. Sweet. Okay. Okay. So much stuff to talk about. So Soren, what is happening with 7-hydroxy's legality? What is happening?
Right. So in late July, the Health and Human Services sent out a notification that there was going to be an important announcement made regarding a dangerous synthetic drug, and this is all quotes,
Mm.
7-hydroxymetragynine. And so I hopped on a little plane, flew to DC, sat in a room filled with some of the leading kratom researchers from the University of Florida, the head of the American Kratom Association, as well as the CEOs and founders of a number of large, established, old school Kratom companies. Old school meaning they didn't sell 7-hydroxymetragynine because that's a relatively new phenomenon. They've only really been selling 7-hydroxymetragynine isolate products on the market for about 2 years now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's incredible how new this is. So in this meeting, they had the director of the FDA, Dr. Marty McCurry or something. I fell into this unfortunate habit whenever I was really angry at the beginning of these announcements of calling him Dr. Malarkey, and now I have a hard time remembering his actual name. But the director of the FDA, then they had the head of Health and Human Services, which is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Mm.
And they had a very high up ranking member of the DEA, not the head of the DEA, as well as Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, some Oklahoma senator, on stage to sort of announce this unified effort on all fronts, Congress, Health and Human Services, FDA, and DEA, that that the HHS and FDA, per the rules established in the Controlled Substance Act, were recommending that the DEA schedule 7-hydroxymetragynine in the Controlled Substance Act as a Schedule 1 drug. That doesn't mean it happens immediately. There's a list of proceedings that a list of steps that Congress established in 1970 with the Controlled Substance Act of what needs to follow following the FDA and HHS recommendation. Usually the DEA bypasses this by emergency scheduling things and sort of just became its own
Which is what
little
they're
monopoly.
isn't that what they're trying to do right now with 7OH?
We don't know if they're going to do an emergency scheduling or if they're going to go through the full scheduling process. They tried in 2016 when 7-hydroxymetragynine as well as metragynine were listed as intended to become Schedule 1 substances. They went through the Emergency Act, which means that essentially reducing a lot of the complexities of what needs to occur. Essentially, the DEA needs to make a case that of these 8 factors that are established in the Controlled Substance Act, essentially going through like what do we know about it scientifically, pharmacologically, what do we know about the effect on public health, what do we know about its addiction liability, what do we
Mhm.
know about it being a precursor for another scheduled drug, a list of 8 questions that they have to then answer, sort of like a book report, stating that it does or does not qualify as having no medical value and high potential for
Which,
abuse,
which
yada yada yada.
in all fairness, they don't need to do any of that. I mean, that's what they technically need to do, but all they really need to do is, foster enough people to be like, hey, this stuff's bad, and then it's done. Correct?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm sort of like tangenting myself into a non-coherent narrative here, but historically, you're absolutely right. The DEA wants to do something and it's done. Like that's just
Yeah.
like oh we
Well,
see
and
a drug, we're gonna make it illegal, and they get away with it. Except in 2016 and except in 2023, there's 3 instances of scheduling intentions that have been not put forward by the DEA.
yeah, and then what he's referencing is those times. Basically, what happened is the DEA tried to make kratom illegal, and actually, through the power of people just being a fan of this plant, they all got together and were like, "You're not fucking doing that," and it worked 3 times, where they just keep
It
doing it. No,
actually just once, just
that's what I thought.
2016. Yeah, 2023, there was a class of psychedelics that were tryptamines, and there's a class of psychedelics that were phenethylamines. There was 2 phenethylamines and 5 tryptamines that they tried to schedule, separate scheduling actions. The tryptamine was completely thrown out whenever there was this public uproar, and then the phenethylamines, a group of people took it to court, DEA administrative court, and argued against it. The DEA made a ruling on World Psychedelic Day, actually, while we were in Denver. I think I was sort of bitching and moaning
Oh,
about this at some
that's the
point.
shit you and Hamilton were fucking pissed about.
Yeah, DOI and DOC. They
Yeah, yeah,
rejected the arguments, said that still should be class scheduled, but that's going to be appealed through Robert Rush,
Oh,
SSDP, Brett Phillips, and the
okay.
Rights and
We're
Reason
getting,
Project. This is
yeah,
all
yeah. We're
separate,
getting ahead of it.
entirely unrelated to Kratom.
But yeah, so he. It's just there is. I will say with this whole scheduling thing and like whether we should schedule 7OH is its own thing, own discussion, but we're not powerless is the kind of the point. Like obviously, I think nowadays we all feel pretty powerless with this government, but like Kratom, like they tried to take it away, and people were like, "No, you're not," and it wasn't taken away. So like there is, if we unify, like we don't, we can actually have a voice a bit. Um,
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they didn't schedule Kratom in 2016 is what got me into Kratom because I saw that as the chink in the armor. That is the way that here's a formula of which we've been able to fight back prohibition for the first time in history. This monolithic force that was, irrefutable. That was we were indefensible of, like we could not defend from,
mm-hmm.
was actually pushed back. And
Yep.
then that success was sort of replicated. And then
Yep.
2023, and it's like this wasn't a one-off.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
mean, and also in 2021, when the FDA tried to do a sneaky little thing via international law and treaty obligations and push it through the WHO and the UN. But that's again, we're tangentially fracturing
to
everything.
to to
Um,
for context, the way Soren's beautiful brain works is that he has a lot of information, and it's hard for him to decipher sometimes what's most pertinent and what's least pertinent, which is one of the reasons what makes him so brilliant. But also, he does go on tangents sometimes.
yes, I like nuance.
He does
And
like nuance. He likes nuance, and I
live
am. Yeah.
streams do not afford editing opportunities.
Do you want me to like rein you in sometimes?
If you feel like that this is not fitting, sort of
No,
the
I think it's
label
all.
of like what this is, then
Yeah.
yeah.
No, okay, cool. I just like because I was like, do you want us to kind of go like how we did the video together, where like you talk and I'm like, translate it, like okay, so, what kind of so what kind of okay, I heard through the grapevine, okay, that one of these senators, the Oklahoma sir, might have received a little shmoney maybe, or maybe a little grease on the wheels to maybe sway him.
Hmm.
So, have you heard anything about maybe the 70H? The fact that it's this is the new narrative they're spinning. 70H is ruining America. That maybe someone's greasing the pockets of some politicians, maybe some kratom companies, because kratom industry kind of hates 70H, weirdly enough. Have you heard anything?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know anything about specific
People.
donations to Mark Wayne Mullins, but I mean, for one, generally speaking, broadly speaking, we don't live in a democracy.
Yeah, yeah,
The way this works is politicians are paid to have an opinion.
yeah, yeah,
We call it lobbying, but that's sort of Orwellian speak for bribery.
yeah,
Sort of the system has just adopted the term lobbying. So if there's anything going on in Congress, it's for selfish reasons,
yeah,
including this, despite it not being a really congressional act, although Congress is, supporting this by way of having Mark Wayne Mullen at the conference. But real quick, kind of just setting the stage before I get into sort of like the complexities of industry trade organizations
Okay.
using politics as an arm to defend their markets. The HHS and FDA recommended scheduling of 7-hydroxy-DEA. DEA said, yes, we will review this, and then we will make an announcement on the Federal Register, which is essentially the government's forum that they have to announce new laws before they become laws, so that all stakeholders can submit comments on public record that they will take into consideration before they ultimately create a new law that people have to follow.
Mm.
So the DEA has this recommendation. There's no explicit timeline for when they will have to make it a scheduled substance. It could be tomorrow. We hear they're going to do emergency rulings, so that would be like 15 to 30 days.
Mm.
Or it could be 2 or 3 years before we hear anything from the DEA regarding how they want to go about scheduling 7-hydroxymetrageny.
And it's
And I've got
important
a
to note
tangent
that
here, but it's not.
they're not going to schedule kratom. Like that's like the important note that there is a distinction
Yet.
between 70H and kratom, and they are not going after kratom, even though other individual states are. Right now, we're just talking about 70H, which is distinct. And to clarify, how the industry works with kratom is that there's a general kratom industry. 70H guys are not liked by a lot of like legacy kratom companies, like the big kratom companies that
Mhm.
you and me have bought for years. Soren's company, like kratom companies generally don't like 70H because I was just talking to someone yesterday who works in the kratom company. 70H takes away from kratom sales because 70H is more euphoric than kratom for most people for a lot of reasons. It gets you higher. So a lot of people who maybe would have tried powder and would have been like, this stuff is all right, just now has to take a pill and they get hooked. Not even just hooked, but they just like, you can get appealing results immediately from just a pill, as opposed to kratom
Mhm.
where it kind of sucks. Kratom's kind of hard to do. It kind of sucks to, sorry. It's a little difficult to do sometimes. I love kratom. Y'all know I love kratom. But it's like, it's a sludge. It's a green sludge. It's like shitty matcha. All due respect, Soren.
Yeah, and all due respect, I don't fuck with the shitty matcha stuff either. It's, smooth, golden, delicious flavored
Shut
teas
the
that
fuck
one has a
up.
ritual around.
Shut
That's the way
up.
to go. And the way that they are targeting 7-hydroxymetrageny with precision in this announcement of the intent to schedule it is completely novel. It's something that has not been done before in the scheduling of a drug. Normally, if you were caught with, 1/100th of the smallest active dose of psilocybin in a
Mm,
state that hasn't decriminalized it,
mm,
you would still go to jail. Like I had kids
mm-hmm.
in my high school who would be taken out of school and put in juvie for 2 years because they found a stem from a bud from cannabis.
Yeah.
Because all of it is illegal at any amount,
Yep. Well,
regardless
and
of
that's
whether or not you could get high from it. And with 7-hydroxymetrageny, they are creating, in my opinion, sort of arbitrary, and but completely unprecedented concentration threshold, which is yet to be announced, but it'll probably be around 1 to 2%,
Mm.
given, and this is where we get into sort of the conspiracy behind it. The people who have pushed for the scheduling action have also written and passed dozens of laws across the United States and individual states defining what is and is not kratom, and how it can be sold, how it can be marketed, etc. And within all these individual state actions, referred to as the Kratom Consumer Protection Acts (KCPAs), they often set the limit of what is a kratom product as a product which contains less than 2% 7-hydroxymetragenine as an alkaloid ratio, not by weight of total product, but as an alkaloid ratio. Although I think there is maybe one state where it's set at 1%. It seems to be gravitating towards 1% as a way for industry legacy kratom players to
Yeah.
push out the emerging market threat, not a public health threat, but market threat of
Yeah.
7-hydroxymetragenine
Now,
products.
what is this conspiracy that you're talking about? So what is this the conspiracy behind 7OH scheduling and all that kind of stuff?
So Kratom estimated to have roughly 20 million uh, people in the United States who consume it at least once a month, per
Okay.
the latest survey data.
Wait.
That
Actually, pause.
was
I'm so sorry. So there's a lot of people in the chat right now. We're doing really good, by the way, Soren. We're going. It's like 240 concurrent viewers, which is pretty good. This is pretty good.
Thank you for taking time out of your life to watch us.
I think people are very interested. And I think people appreciate the information. Chat, there's a lot of questions. This is 50% me being a money grubbing motherfucker, and 50% actually, we have to figure out, like, if you want to ask a question, we would love to answer questions. Soren would love to answer questions. Pay money for a chat, and then we'll actually see it, because there's a lot of questions, So pay, I don't, a small $50 donation or something. It's a good information. I don't know, but it
Man is
will
doing good
help.
work. He
Yeah.
deserves to be paid.
So
I don't get any of this.
none. He gets zero. It's all me.
I get to
So
spread the good word.
spread the good word. So, but like legitimately, like actually, like there is a lot of questions. If you want your question to be seen, it would help a lot. We will read it if there's money. Okay. Sorry. Now back to Soren.
We were talking about, well, like, what is
The
the
conspiracy.
conspiracy, right?
Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, and so, there's like a spectrum of conspiracies, right? There's like,
Mm.
you know, not like less believable conspiracies to conspiracies that are essentially like, there's like uh, aliens are monitoring the
I don't want to
planet
hear about
and
that shit.
visiting us
We want to hear some like
versus
actually
like
what's actually happening. Like who have you heard of anyone who has gotten money from this? Okay, like no one knows what the AKA is. What's the AKA?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we can just explain a number of players and then maybe sort of connect the dots between some things here.
Okay.
So the AKA is the American Kratom Association, which was founded in 2016 as a direct response to the DEA announcing their intention to ban kratom. It
Mm.
was founded by Susan Ash and Paul Kemp,
Okay.
which were consumers, people who counted on kratom
Oh.
in their personal life, and they were motivated to, we
And
need to
they didn't
stage
own a company or nothing.
nothing.
Got
No.
it.
Um, and they joined forces with a number of industry players. They essentially solicited industry, said, hey, like, maybe don't throw out your baton, maybe join in this fight, give us some money, and we can push back. They were joined with another organization, the Botanicals Education Alliance. I might have screwed that name, but they eventually merged and became the AK. AKA hired a bunch of consultants
Mm.
and lawyer figures and people with connections within DC, like Nancy Pelosi's son, and
Mm.
then the former, like, a guy, Mac Haddow, who's very close with the senior health and dietary supplement senator, person who had the most sway in this space. And they brought these people on as paid consultants, as representatives of the organization to help fight this prohibition. And they did a really good job. I mean, we
Mm.
won for the first
Yeah.
time ever.
Yeah.
All credit where credit is due. You
Yeah.
know, Mac Haddow is still the senior head of policy or something something, random, some name that he has to give himself to have a certain amount of separation and a certain amount of connection to thread whatever legal needle he needs. But he is the head of the AKA. And he did a really good job in 2016. Since then, it has been a a constant job. Like he didn't go back to the open market consulting. They have continued to represent the industry, combat various state actions since 2016, where a state like Rhode Island says we think that kratom should be illegal because we saw what the FDA said about it, and then Rhode Island goes and makes kratom illegal. Or Georgia says, hey, we want to make kratom illegal because there's a very influential family here who blames the death of their
Yeah.
son on consuming too much kratom, which may or may not happen. Nothing is perfectly safe. Nothing is only toxic.
Yep.
And then they solicit Georgia Congress or legislators to prohibit it. And then the AKA comes in with all of their legacy kratom funding and a small amount of individual donations to propose regulations instead of prohibition.
So
And that's
essentially,
essentially what,
AKA was a grassroots foundation founded by people who actually just were helped by kratom, and then naturally, just as like people saw that they had some power, big kratom companies started to invest in them, and then now it's starting to
yes.
become like a lobby group, kind of.
Oh, 100, yes, yes. I forget, there's like a
Oh wait,
dozen
we have a
different-
question. We have a question. Oh, sorry, Meta. I don't have a question, but your content is so amazing. Consider this me begging. Okay, thank you so much, me Chewy. Thank you so much. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I lost you. It was funny. The internet cut out during that compliment you received, so good timing.
Yeah, perfect.
So yes, they lobby politicians at the state and allegedly at the federal level. Although we've not seen really any kratom related laws or legislation or bills go in front of the House or the Senate for debate over there. So they've really only focused on statewide action.
Mm.
So the AKA has had a mixed relationship with 7-hydroxymetragenine. They, initially were against it, and then they eventually started to come to terms with it and say, hey, it's kratom as much as anyone else.
Is
And then there was a
that
big
coming to
flip
terms
again.
with it because they might have received a little money in the pocket to help them understand how good 7-OH could be?
I don't doubt for a second that there has been a lot of money offers. Whether or not they've taken 7-hydroxymetragenine money, I don't know.
We don't know. Okay.
Possibly, if they did, it was a bad investment for 7-hydroxymetragenine companies because the AKA is firmly in the prohibited camp right now, which is deeply frustrating because it's, and there's several more actors we can add into the conspiracy, but the overarching message is the reason why people wanted 7-hydroxymetragenine to be prohibited was because they felt that 7-hydroxymetragenine would be a liability, which would ultimately result in the scheduling of kratom at large. So, in order to prevent kratom at large, they thought we have to get 7-hydroxymetragenine out of the market. It's the only way that we can preserve our market.
The enemy of is my friend.
Yes, prohibit them so that prohibition won't come for all of us.
Yes.
And this has backfired, and we're seeing this already. Ohio just this week announced that they were going to schedule all kratom, and it is hard to believe that decision wasn't partially informed by the media circus that has erupted around the FDA's announcement that they were recommending the DEA schedule it.
Yeah.
Because not every journalist, if you want to consider yourself a journalist, is like Meta and can understand that there's nuance in the world. Every like ABC, CNN, like you see these stories about the 7-hydroxymetragenine scheduling, and they talk about feel free for half of it. And
yeah. It's like
whatever,
feel free,
but like
7-OH and feel free. I mean, it's not zero, but like we're talking about it's kratom. Feel free is kratom. Yeah.
Yeah, but It just the media doesn't understand that, and
Yep.
then the public is even more naive than the media. God bless them, they just don't have enough time. They're constantly being
Yep.
bombarded with headlines,
Yep.
and so they see kratom being scheduled, kratom bad, kratom causes health consequences, kratom synthetic. These things that the public associates with a dangerous drug that needs to be addressed. Fear works itself up, and then ultimately you get these actions, like in Ohio, where all of it is being thrown out, which is causing the exact thing that the people who wanted to prohibit 7-hydroxymetragenine as a way of protecting the overall kratom market, feared. Like it is causing the getting rid of everything.
Yeah. Exactly.
Instead of the get rid of one thing to preserve us.
Yeah.
And it was so predictable. I mean, unbelievably predictable. But so yeah, the AKA's role in this is that they use a lot of legal terms that come from the Dietary Supplement Health Enforcement Act of 1994, known as the SHAE, and then federal drug and supplement and food regulation language, as to couch their position in a legal framework that is immune from their personal beliefs and opinions and the fact that their market's being devastated by this. So they say that because 7-hydroxymetragenine was not in commerce prior to October 15th, 1994. Therefore, before it can enter the market, it has to have evidence for safety submitted to the FDA by new
Mm.
dietary ingredient notification, or probably within this stupid framework for drugs, supplements, and food that we have in this country, which is ultimately broken and does not have the
Well,
intention of benefiting the public health in its mind. They would recommend that 7-hydroxymetragenine be introduced as a drug via pharmaceutical companies instead, and that's why they are
someone
against it.
someone asked, why aren't they promoting regulation instead of prohibition? Because the government doesn't do regulation; they do prohibition, and then we fight for regulation. They like
That's
to. They don't care about us, sadly. I mean, you can spin this in a lot of ways. I think a lot of these older political people, they think they give a damn because I mean, it's an easy win. Oh, okay. He
no,
disagrees
no,
with me.
no, no, no. I'm
The,
agreeing with you.
so
They don't
so
give a damn.
they don't give a damn, but like they can tell themselves and tell their constituents that they give a damn because essentially they're like, well, see, all these children are getting hooked on 7-OH, which, to clarify, 7-OH is like a problem right now. Like we can agree that like there's a lot of people. Oh, so God, there's a lot of people who have like a lot of problems with 7-OH, and people don't know how to handle it right now. But they're using that as an easy dunk to be like, see, we're making this thing illegal that's killing people or hurting people, right? Dunk, we care about you. They don't give a damn. It's just an easy win for them to act like they care about us. They do not care because the way to actually help people, because this is what's going to happen, okay? They're going to ban 7-OH maybe, okay? Let's say they do, okay? Next, what happens is other compounds start coming out that are kind of RCs, that are derivatives of 7. You have MGM, correct? Now MGM. Now we don't know anything about this new compound, but now there's new gas station drugs, and then they ban MGM, and then they get a new compound, and what you have is this race of these chemists who are going to make these weirder chemicals that we don't know anything about. This is how like spice got like the K2 and shit. It gets weirder and weirder, and then it gets more dangerous and more dangerous because we don't know shit about this. That's the problem with this. Because when they do prohibition, they're going to prohibit something that is mildly maybe a little dangerous, and it makes this, because of our culture, it's going to have this cascade of fucking weird chemicals called research chemicals, RCs. It's going to get weird. It's guaranteed. It's already getting weird. MGM, there's already chemicals coming out from 7-OH.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very well
and
said.
sorry,
Yeah.
wait. Someone asked a question. Nick Corbin, as an organic chemist, I'm curious how you feel not just about 7-OH, but the fluorinated analogs we're seeing be advocated by certain suppliers. Okay, perfect. That
Exactly.
was perfect. Yeah.
That's what MGM 15 is, which are these like street code names, but they are 7-hydroxymetragenine analogs that were developed at Columbia University by um, maybe I shouldn't out the chemist, but you can see it in the patent literature very easily.
Okay.
The company Gilgamesh Pharmaceuticals, and yeah, it's 11 fluoro 7-hydroxymetragenine,
Mm.
which it's been a while since I read up on the patent literature, but I think there's like absurd claims, like it's showing that it had like 100x like more affinity for the opioid receptor than 7-hydroxymetragedy does, and 7-hydroxymetragedy already is like exceptionally uh um
High
you know
affinity.
high affinity, like you need very little of it to get a very strong effect. Like with morphine you might need like 100 to 200 milligrams to get quality analgesic effect, where with
Mm-hmm.
7-hydroxymetragedy you're getting that in like the 10 to 20 milligram range.
Yep.
um
Yep.
so also, I
Yeah.
just noticed you're not using your sock on your
Yeah,
mic.
I got it. Yeah,
Nice.
I got it. It was a good look though for the Hamilton interview.
Um, yes. So the 11 fluorinated, I mean, this is tip of the iceberg. It's going to be and forgive these, I don't like the term myself, but I think people understand what we mean when we say like the spicification of kratom. And
Mm-hmm.
this is not going to result in an ABC News story a year from now that says, unfortunately, there was this product on the market which accidentally put too much 11-fluoro-7-hydroxymetrageny in its product, which resulted in 20 people going to the hospital and 8 fatalities. The ABC News headlines are going to be like, Kratom kills people.
Yep.
And then you're going to
Yep.
get that over and over again. Maybe the DEA will target 11 tragedy and schedule that under emergency action. And then there'll be 10 fluoro, or,
But it
you just
doesn't.
put
The
different
funny thing,
halogens in the functional groups.
it doesn't matter though about how like I mean how these gas station, not even gas stations, smoke shop industries work is that they don't care if it's legal or not. They just care that it's so obscure that they're not going to get caught. Okay, like
Yeah.
they're going to put shit that is straight up illegal in the in the smoke shops because mind you, smoke shops already have a ton of other. We can talk about all the illegal stuff that they have there that they shouldn't have there. That's technically illegal, but because cops don't know what 4-ACO DMT is, they just think, oh, I guess it's technically legal. So like they like it's just a game that you play, and it's just this is the problem that we get into with prohibition. Like
Yeah.
actually I would love to talk to you about the problems with 7-OH because I know a lot of people in here actually are very against 7-OH, and I can relate to that. But
Sure.
you can ban 7-OH, whatever, and I think something should be done. Honestly, I think it's probably a bigger cultural conversation, but like what's going to happen by doing that is you're actually putting a lot more people at a lot higher risk because also mind you, a lot of these people who are hooked on 7-OH who are doing like 20 pills a day, some fucked up shit, they're going to have some gnarly withdrawals, and some of them are going to do some stuff that they are it's unwise to keep themselves from going through withdrawal, like going to street
Hmm.
drugs, going to maybe fentanyl, maybe going to like other stuff because they don't want to have to deal with the withdrawals, because this is exactly what happened with oxycodone. This is exactly what happened with Purdue, where they got a whole bunch of people hooked on this stuff and then said, actually, just kidding, we shouldn't be giving you guys this many opioids. And then you had all these moms, you had all these innocent people that are going now to the street. They're going to street heroin. They're going to fentanyl because they don't want to go through withdrawal. They have chronic pain. They've put this in their head that they need it. It's, I'm getting fired up, but
Yeah. No, I mean it's very good. I mean, yeah, it's disgusting. The fact that they continue to use and employ prohibition as a means of trying to address public health issues. Like we learned in the 20s that police are not the uh, organization that we should employ to deal with public harms related to the abuse of psychoactive substances with alcohol. And then we briefly corrected course, and 21st amendmented our way out of it, but then they just continue to justify bloated budgets to address made up manufactured drug public health crises. But yeah, but stepping back to sort of like the harms of 7-hydroxymetrageny,
mm,
just like to be very clear, I am against prohibition of 7-hydroxymetrageny, but I am not here to be an apologist for the 7-hydroxymetrageny market as it has existed today.
yep,
And I also will go so far as to say I'm not here to be an apologist of the kratom market as it
yeah,
exists
yep,
here today.
yep,
A lot of the same problems that exist within the 7-hydroxymetrageny market are the exact same problems that we've been dealing with the Kratom market for the better part of a decade at this point, which
yep,
is shitty labeling. Like, for the love of God, if you're giving someone a psychoactive substance, you should give them as much information as you possibly can to ensure that they don't hurt themselves and they have a good time with it. Like, they take the right
Yep.
amount, they don't
Yep.
make themselves sick.
Yep.
Um, you know,
And that's a
which
cultural
means
problem. That's the cultural problem with like anytime, and this happens with actually literally every psychoactive and non-psychoactive new plant or drug that we get, is that we don't have a cultural understanding of it at all. So we don't have the proper ways of informing people. Hey, this is dangerous. Hey, this is how you should treat this. Hey, this is when you should do this, when we shouldn't do this. Because we have that with alcohol. Alcohol is way more
kind of.
dangerous than most of these. Exactly, kind of. But we have this where it's like people get addicted to it, but you don't ever blame alcohol. You blame it on like, hey, you know you shouldn't be drinking every night type of thing. Hold on. And we have right here, Me Chewy says, my mom asks, can you define gas station drugs? So with gas stations in America and with smoke shops in America, there are a lot of products that you kind of just have to know just by being in the industry or just knowing or being a degenerate really. Knowing like, okay, that product has, there's a lot of products that are basically sold as miracle whatevers that have just like illegal drugs in them. For example, like the gas station boner pills, those have sildenafil, they have thiocildenafil, they have like literally prescription level boner medication. A lot of the magic mushroom bars that you get, okay, that you get at a gas station, those have either straight up magic mushrooms like psilocybin in them, or they'll have, god damn it, or they'll have like 5-MeO DMT, which is a chemical that's, no, you disagree with that?
I don't think they're putting 5-MeO DMT in these magic mushroom bars because you can actually overdose and die on those, and I'm not seeing evidence of that. But they're mostly for substituted tryptamines. So for ACO DMT, for ACO DET, for ACO MET.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you,
those are
thank you for
primarily
that.
the ones that we're seeing in it, or
Got it.
hydroxy MET, hydroxy DET. Yeah.
Thank you for that correction. So there's that, and then there's I mean, there's so many products when you go into gas stations that like they just. I mean, in all fairness, I talk to these gas station owners because I'm always curious. They never know what they're doing. They literally, all they do and how these industries work is you basically have a distributor. You have these companies that say, hey, this is the new hot product. And then they inform the smoke shop, hey, this is what you should have on your shops. And then how you basically get that decided is like through paying the right person. And I actually know a lot about this topic. So, yeah. So
This would be a
that's,
great video, definitely.
it would be my only problem is that I don't need to be, yeah, never mind. So, we got another question. Sorry, I'm cutting you off, Soren. How the fuck does the DEA not base the scheduling on actual research or do the research themselves, but instead do it for lobbying? What a funny, cute, funny question.
That's so
Soren?
innocent. I love it. I
I
mean,
know,
well,
right?
let's assume that the DEA's intention is to benefit public health, right? Um, so in 1970, the DEA now has the Controlled Substance Act, scheduling apparatus to operate under. And within Schedule 1, we have heroin, LSD, psilocybin,
Mm,
mescaline,
mm,
um, cannabis.
mm.
And so, in order to save the public from the damages that are occurring from these drugs or that are perceived to be occurring from these drugs, they decide to start locking people up and filling prisons,
Mm.
which under the 13th Amendment means you can work people for free in these prisons. Um, Slaves, as you would say. Um, and there's a lot of other organizations like rehabs and stuff that have sprung up later that sort of suckle on this apparatus of prohibition and are fed by it. Um, and as there's more harms associated with drugs, like how many overdoses and stuff that are being monitored by toxicologists, medical examiners, whatever in the population, the more funding that then goes to the DEA in order to protect the public from this. But we are seeing that when you use prohibition to deal with drug-related harms, you are just filling up jails, devastating communities, especially Black men in
Mm-hmm.
America. Something
Mm-hmm.
like 1 in 5 of them liable to go to prison for an arbitrary drug-related offense,
Yeah.
destroys communities. Um, and I might be getting off the question of how they could do this without scientific information, but again, pending that they're trying to help public health here, we have seen prohibition fail over the years and cause harm to the point where it's impossible to imagine that the DEA actually believes what they are doing is helping public health and is instead simply trying to prop up the established status quo which feeds billions of dollars every years into the prison industrial complex,
I,
into rehab
yeah.
complex, into localized police, all these things.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I
Yes.
think I saw this actually in Vanuatu when I went there. I talked to a lot of people who were like part of the liberation, like either they or their parents were part of like the liberation of Vanuatu, and they talked a lot about how they used to trust their government. Like they used to be like, yeah, Nivan, like we are for we are for our community, and it was originally like a lot of people that they fought to liberate themselves from their colonizers. They had good intentions, and then guess what happened? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Those politicians that were good-minded started to take money and realize that money is sometimes better than good morals. The AKA, you can make that argument. The AKA started with just regular folk fighting for their right to deal with their pain with a natural plant, and now they take
Yeah.
money, and now they might do some shit that's out of money and not out of like actual morality. Um,
Yeah, and not
Same
to
thing
say
with
that
the
the
DA.
AKA is entirely bad now. They
No.
still definitely are important and do good work.
Yep.
But they really screwed the pooch on this one. They are so wrong in this position that they're in now. From a perspective of what is in their best interest, they are wrong in doing this. They misunderstand what is in their best interest, and I truly believe that. But how the DEA cannot employ true scientific information is because drugs are magical in this country. We have been brainwashed to believe that drugs have magical powers, and the only thing you need to know about drugs is not to do them.
Yep.
And our understanding of pharmacology, of chemistry, of what subjectively altering our minds means and can do to us permanently in our character, in our morality, in our ability to be saved and go to heaven. All
Yep.
like all of these millions of complex variables that go into that alienating us from drugs makes it very hard for anyone. And in America, the media generally serves this purpose of scrutinizing government policies and decisions. And
Yep.
there's not, there's I can count on my hands the amount of journalists that I can think of that have a pharmacology 101 understanding. So people
Yeah.
are not able to scrutinize these decisions that the DEA make, and so they're just led
Well, because
to
the DEA
believe it.
doesn't even know. Like the people that are making decisions at the DEA, they don't know fucking shit about shit. Like they don't.
Yeah.
They're not. They're
Yeah, you
not.
can read the FDA's recommendation to schedule 7-hydroxymetrazidine, and there is no evidence of public harm from it. All they have are anecdotes from Reddit of
Yeah.
how 7-hydroxymetrazidine hurt someone or became addictive. Maybe this is the transition we need now into
Yes.
is 7-hydroxymetrazidine hurting people, and then is prohibition the right
And
step?
maybe we can do a little bit of debate thing because I think we might naturally be a little bit different opposed on this.
Sure.
So I think it is hurting a lot of people. 7OH for sure. You?
Yeah. I think that harm is a spectrum for one. I don't think there's any evidence that there are people dying from 7-hydroxymetrazidine.
That's fine.
Um,
That's fine.
yeah,
I don't I mean I wouldn't be surprised. I mean one you can die motherfuckers kill themselves on water, so we can trust
you
that someone
can die from 7-hydroxymetrazidine, but I
yes.
am seeing no evidence of a single case yet.
That
I've
and
not
that's
yet.
fine.
That's it.
But I'm saying inevitably there will be cases where they die, but I'm going to say that doesn't really matter. You can die on anything and like I think but when I say it's hurting people, what I think it's when I say it's hurting people is people are seeing these packages, young people too. A lot of young people who just go to the gas station and get these pills because some of them just don't even card because they're technically don't need to. And they just get hooked. Like they'll do a pill and now all of a sudden, I mean, you can see those Reddit posts. There's tons of the people in this chat like have probably experienced this, where they just end up doing a fuck ton. I did Kratom for years, and then when I started to do 7OH, I picked up a pretty nasty habit. of doing it every single night, right? And I think it's just 7-OH is another level of addiction just because it is just so euphoric and you can get so much higher on it comparatively, right?
So yeah, I mean, I don't think that doing heroin regularly every night is a bad thing and necessarily causing harm. Doing so without adequate education as to what heroin is can cause harm. Like
Yeah.
you should probably be having beet juice on a daily basis if you are doing heroin or a strong opioid regularly at night, because
Why is that?
you're going to get constipated.
Oh, yeah.
Opioids constipate you; they slow
Yep.
gut
Yep.
motility.
Wait, how does
They
beet juice help
sh-
with that?
it's a laxative.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Um, yeah, or prune. Sorry, prune juice.
Prune
Prune
juice.
juice.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Got it. Got it.
Yes, yes, yeah. Sorry, beat industry. I know your stock ticker just went through the roof there for a
Oh,
second,
Jesus
but
Christ.
um, so 7-hydroxymetragenine as a thing which one does daily, if for no other reason than to feel good, I do not equate with harm. If one was educated as to the risks and rewards of doing that, the risk of doing 7-hydroxymetragenine regularly is, and it's not necessarily a risk because this could also be a good thing, is that you will develop tolerance and then you'll need to take more to get the same effect that you felt at a less amount
But I think
previously.
that's
Um,
such. No, sorry. Carry on your thought then.
which leads you to spend more money, and then money is finite for most people, and then you run out of money, and then you start to get pain and hurt, and then that's a real problem with using it.
But I think it's even deeper than that because I think like one, we have to talk about not okay. A lot of the people who are watching this stream are somewhat educated. I mean, you have to be some level of like well-read individual at the bare minimum to even track what the fuck we're saying, right? But for the general population, someone who is not like that, some act of being addicted to something can be scary because that affects their mental health. That like they don't know what withdrawal is. They don't know that withdrawal can happen to anyone and does happen to everyone. I think just by having 7-OH on the shelves, I think it is it's dangerous inherently, even if it doesn't physically hurt anyone, just out of mental health hurts and getting people hooked on something and all the things that
Yeah,
comes with
but
that.
so does having cars on the road. Arguably, that's a way more risky behavior and results in fatalities
But the
every
difference
year.
is that we have a culture around driving cars where there's an understanding of the risks and rewards of so, while 7-OH there is none.
Right. The 7-hydroxymetragenine is not dangerous. The culture that's lacking, that vacuum of a culture is
But we can't.
dangerous. Not
We
7-hydroxy.
but if you're a government and you're like we have to take care of the kids, right? Or not even the kids. I hate when they just go the kids. But like we have to take care of the public, right? You don't just get to say we need to change the culture. It's like no, we have the culture and it's lacking this vacuum, right? So we have to do
Yeah, we
something.
put giant black box warnings on cigarettes. We show pictures of cancerous lungs or jaws that have fallen off of people who do chew tobacco. Like the public, like it. The Congress has done this before. Like
Yeah.
the government has tried to change the culture around use without prohibiting. Sorry, did I lose you?
No,
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 good.
I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah. So 7-hydroxymetragenine in that sense is not dangerous, and it itself is not harming people. It's the culture around it, and what we need to do is regulate it and educate on it, not take it off the shelves.
I agree with that.
And then there is a level of debate which I will not proclaim to be the guy with the set answer, and I haven't thought about, do we 18 it or do we 21 it? Do we
Yep.
say it has to be behind counters? Can it not be sold with drugs like caffeine or sugar that have a lot less restrictions, that have more cultural acceptance? Like
Yep.
these are
Yep.
questions that I don't pretend to know the answer to right now. All I know is that my historical understanding of prohibition will result in a dramatic increase in the harms that orbit
Yes. Yeah,
7-hydroxymetragenine.
I agree with that. I think we do agree on that. I think the best option for the DEA would probably be to address 7-OH because I think they should actually address 7-OH if they want to proclaim like they give a fuck about us. But I think it would be like how they do with nicotine. Like just like it needs to be legally like this is addictive. It's exactly like nicotine products. And it's like the same thing. Like I think that I another thing some of you all are saying in chat about like addiction is whatever. So addiction is bad, but not really. Okay, many of you are addicted, and a lot of you acknowledge how addiction can be very benign. Coffee is one of the perfect examples. Coffee can cause withdrawals. It can be physically addicting. It is mentally addicting. And yet, in our culture, we understand that the addiction is like, yeah, it's addictive. It's not that big of a deal. Zins, another good example of how many motherfuckers you know, how many frat dudes you know go through packs of these a day. They're not dying. I'm sure we're going to find out later down the road that it's probably not the best for something. But there is something to be said about addiction alone is not the worst thing. And in fact, most of us are addicted to something. So that is not the end all be all. Just because something is addicting does not mean it is evil or bad or whatever.
Yeah, and addicting has sort of a precise medical meaning, which is defined in the DSM-5, the Diagnosis Standards Manual. And one can be consuming something regularly like nicotine or caffeine, and would go through withdrawals had they not, if they don't consume it, and not technically be classified as an addict according
Mm.
to the precise medical terms. Addiction, generally, and there's a number of things that the psychologists will try to get answers to whenever they interview people who may or may not be addicted to something, is like, generally, is this interfering with your social life? Is this interfering with your professional life? Do the withdrawals cause you to neglect other responsibilities in order to sate those withdrawals? A number of things that is a measurement of how one's relationship with a drug affects one's relationship with the broader world. So
And actually,
being
this
having
book,
tolerance and being physiologically addicted to something does not define addiction per the medical community.
yeah, and sorry, someone paid money, so we have to say this. Babushka 1212 says drugs don't cause addiction, environments do. Withdrawal does not equal addiction. Dependence and addiction aren't the same. And
Exactly.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah. That
I will.
environment is social relations, professional relations, et cetera, et
There's
cetera.
a there's a very famous study that I brought up a couple times in my videos, the Rat Park study, and it showed it exactly that.
Bruce Alexander.
It is one of the most foundational studies on addiction. They basically showed that you give a bunch of rats really good drugs, not all of them get addicted. Just the ones that are a little bit miserable in life. But the ones that have a pretty good life, they don't really like the drugs very much. They kind of like them. It's kind of life. If you live a well-balanced life, addiction doesn't really attract you in the same way.
Yeah, and addiction is a human phenomenon. So doing
Why
any
is
sort of
there so
animal,
many Jesus people in this chat? There is so many people saying Jesus loves you. What faithful servant
I'm
of
sure he
God
does.
comment. I'm why here? Guys, what? Okay. Well, thank you, I suppose. I guess. Okay.
Would Jesus ban 7-hydroxymetragynine?
Ooh,
I don't think so.
okay, that's a debate. That's a debate. You know, Jesus was a flaming liberal. That is something we can agree on. He was a flaming liberal. Flaming.
It pleads
Oh,
fifth.
it's bots, bro. Who's paying for Jesus bots?
The Pope.
Spreading the word of God. That's a good pope. That's a good pope. Jesus loves you. Oh, they're getting worse. Go away. So Jesus would be sipping that lean. Maybe.
Hey.
Hey, Jesus was a drug dealer. Oh my.
Should we shout out our
Oh
our
no,
favorite Satanist?
we don't need to. No, dude, I watched his stuff. What's his name again? Wait, you can say it,
Dr. Amon Hillman.
bro. I went down a rabbit
Ramon.
hole, a rabbit hole with him, and he is. I like him for so many reasons, but sometimes he goes on rants that are like so dark and anti-Jesus. I'm like, okay, ugh. I mean, I get your frustration, but like, let's not be super disrespectful. I mean, Jesus, let's tone it down a bit. I mean,
I mean, it's
sorry.
interesting. Yeah. Just ignore the Jesus bots. Um, yeah. Sorry,
Hmm.
I'm not looking at the chat, so it almost seems like you're having episodes talking to.
Wait, go to the
Yeah.
chat. It's fun. Go on the live and you can see all the random people saying things about you. Everyone
All right,
says
I'm
they
gonna
hate you. Everyone. Everyone.
briefly be not paying attention.
Oh my
Buying your
God,
free little
Michu.
drink meta. Damn.
Ooh,
You just made
thank you,
20
Michu.
bucks from them?
I know. No, 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 no. Just that. Just meet Chewy. Hi, meet Chewy. Hey, hey. How you doing, meet Chewy? Thank you. I'll
Jesus
get a
was
real
cool,
nice
yeah.
fruity drink.
Oh my God. No, this is like this will how do you pay attention to this? Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Okay. So
Like, how do you like have a
you do have
conversation?
to pay if you want to see it because otherwise you just blend in, unfortunately. Like I'm sure that like as a person in an individual conversation would love to chat with you and answer all of your questions, but um there's a lot going
That's
on
a
here. Oh my
that.
God. This is why I do not really have a public uh
It's a lot, right? Isn't it a lot?
all right. Well, I will continue to allow you to curate
All
some of the
right, it's
chaos.
too much. Oh, someone said Soren's better than Meta. Yeah, ban that motherfucker. I don't even have a mod, but ban him. Ban Angel of Death. Banned. Actually, I'm
An
gonna put him
angel
on a.
of death.
Actually, hold up. I
I
can
hope
put
you're a
him on a.
mycologist.
I can put him on a timeout for a minute.
Don't
Yeah.
do that. That's so rude.
Put
What?
user on a timeout for 10 seconds. I think that will show you a lesson. Okay? Watch yourself. Okay. So, actually, at this point, I think we've talked about a lot of good stuff. Do you have any killer things? Because we can transition a little bit.
How about what can we do? What can we do right now?
Okay.
Do we
Okay.
want to sit complacent and allow prohibition to be reenacted and allow for these analogs to hurt people and allow for people to go into withdrawal and allow for people who have
I
pain and have been
don't.
medicating with 7-hydroxy? Yeah, we don't want
I
that to
don't want
happen.
to. Okay. So, what do we do?
Yeah. So unfortunately, the 7-hydroxymetragenine advocacy groups are sort of AKA, meaning that they are biased and bent in their specific direction because they're trying to protect market share. And so a lot of the things that HARP, the Holistic Alternative Recovery Trust, is doing, and what Seven Hope Alliance is doing, these two sort of industry uh, shadow activist groups are doing and proposing right now are like 80% good and correct, and then like 20% bullshit. They're lying because they think they need a law to be prohibited because they're scared, and I can't blame them for that.
Yeah.
Everyone's scared right now. But what I'm saying is, don't go and be a mindless drone for Heart or Seven Hope Alliance. It is good. So, like if they say write a letter to your congressperson using this form letter, you should write a letter to your congressperson. We probably shouldn't use your form letter. You should be
Mm.
calling congresspeople and
Okay.
senators. You should be if you have positive stories with 7-hydroxymetragenine, you should
Yep.
probably be telling people in
Yep.
positions of power
I
about
also
them. Um,
posting videos. I mean, like this sounds like a small thing, but if you want to do videos on Kratom, how it helped you, or posting it, or like just like spreading the word about how you like. That's what's important. Like, that is one of the most influential things you can do because right now when you look up, feel free when you look up Kratom, you get horror story after horror story after horror story, which just reinforces this whole process.
yeah,
Wait, what? Wait,
yeah.
what's wrong? Hold up, hold up. What's wrong with my audio, Colin? What's wrong with my audio? Okay, another. Okay, put a monthly limit on amounts like we do. Okay, someone says put a monthly limit on amounts like we do Sudafed, and sale 17% on each keeps LLCs legitimate. Pseudoindoxil, SN. Okay, I don't. You seem a bit smarter than me, so I don't fully understand. But that's a perspective.
No idea what they're saying. Okay, wait. Put a monthly limit on sales like we do with Sudafed, tax makers, and sell 50% on each end and keep LLCs legitimate. Pseudodoxil is greater than SNRI, Hale, kappa, opioid receptor, antagonism. Right. I mean, pseudoindoxil is another metabolite of 7-hydroxymetragenine, which has potent opioid activity, but whether or not it crosses the blood-brain barrier is confusing. I don't think it necessarily does, but I do think it just artificially jacks up one tolerance. So I feel like a lot of people are impregnating 7-hydroxymetragenine tablets with pseudoindoxil as a way to make people's tolerance higher so they go back and have to buy more of it. It's sort of insidious, which again, the market is
Mm.
completely fucked on this. But metragenine pseudoindoxil is uh, the same way that 7-hydroxy is metabolite of mitragynine, it's the metabolite of 7-hydroxy
What percentage?
produced in the body.
What percentage of?
A fraction, a very fraction, but it's more powerful than 7-hydroxymitragynine at the opioid receptors. So
Wow.
whenever it's artificially produced and then put into products, people consume it, it will jack up your tolerance. And then regarding monthly tax limits and then taxes and all that stuff, like yes, maybe, but a lesson from cannabis legalization is California legalized, but then they had like a insane tax on cannabis. Did the black market go away? Did all the harms of the black market go away? No, because same taxation drove people away from the legal market. And
But
that's the thing.
and
We have to create.
the difference between that and weed and kratom though is that weed you can grow at your house, and so that's it. It lends itself to a different gray or black market. While kratom, you cannot grow a kratom tree in your backyard, and so it lends
Not
itself
very
to just
well.
not very well. So it'll lend itself to other compounds like ODSMT or like other stuff that people are gonna go to in the black market. It's not gonna. It'll be different than weed.
Yeah. I mean, some taxation certainly is going to be necessary. But yeah, we have to, we just have to, and it's I don't want to say this is a dumb, stupid idea. I can't believe you brought that up. Like, it's a good idea. But we should again continue to be historically aware of the things that have been attempted in the past. And there's this book from 1970, the Consumers Union editors put out, called "Licit and Illicit Drugs," edited by Edward Breacher. It is phenomenal, and it's released the same year the Controlled Substance Act comes out, and they put recommendations for how to
Mm,
legally introduce drugs into the market,
mm,
and they talk about things about finding that Goldilocks zone for taxation that will not drive people to the black market. These things have been talked about and relevant and discussed for the better part of 50 years now, and
yep.
we're ignoring those things, and that's just why we continue to fail. So before any decision is made, we should pump the brakes, really sit down and read, and learn from history before we go to enact it. And I'm not here pretending I know the best way to regulate 7-hydroxymitragynine or
Yeah.
Kratom for that matter on the
Yep.
market. Simply to state in hopefully the most clear words possible that prohibition will not fix the things that we're afraid of, but rather exaggerate them and make them work.
Keep going. Hold
Peace out.
on.
All right. Um, so Meta's gone. So now we can talk about Meta. No, just kidding. Um, we were talking about. Let me go to the chat. You don't have to pay.
Yeah. Oh. The problem is once again we get to MGM16, which is reduced form of 10-fluoro. It becomes a full agonist on the mu and delta instead of the partial MGM15. Oh Jesus.
Okay, I didn't realize Matsumoto did work in 2014. I thought the 10 and 11 fluorinated compounds were invented by Gilgamesh. Very interesting. Nick Corbin,
Fat.
you seem educated and
Very educated.
loaded.
I've also seen Nick Corbin comment before. I think he generally is very educated. I think he knows much more than I do.
And if you
Uh,
want to talk, hit me up off this. Would be very interested in having a discussion with you.
Okay, and I guess we can also transition on questions because I'm sure a lot of people have questions for you, for me, for whatever. I just wanted to bring this out. This is a cultural thing with our culture, and I do mention this in the new video. This is ephedra, right? We have a video about this. I have a video about this. This stuff is energizing naturally. It's a tea. It's naturally energizing. But most people, when you just have access to this, will not get a super weird habit associated with this, okay? It's when you make this shit, which is an extract, where then people start to get more and more into habit-forming activity. It's exactly with kratom. When we just had powder, some people got hooked, for sure. A lot of people did not get hooked, okay? But when we started to get OPMS, feel free, all these extracts, and now 7-OH, it just gets more and more worse, and that's just a cultural thing that we do in the West. We make shit too goddamn potent. Coca leaves are cool. Cocaine's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like probably the best fix for the 7-hydroxymetrageny market would just be legalizing opium poppy again.
Exactly. Opium poppy is like legitimately really not that. I mean, you can overdose from it, but like opium poppy, it's like if you just have
It's
that,
hard to overdose from it. It's
it
very
is.
hard.
But I mean, if you get, I mean, those motherfuckers, because when you get the balls, like the black balls of opium gum, and you eat that, if people don't dose it right, gotcha.
Yeah. No,
But
smoking it, you'll fall asleep first.
exactly. But oh my god, and that's its own. I mean, like the legality of opium poppies is its own thing. Because you can grow it if you're a grandma, but if you're young and they think that you might be getting high on them, then they're illegal. It's totally up to the cops. If they want to arrest you for growing opium poppies, it's up to them. But there's literally there's an entire book about it. What's it called?
Yeah.
Michael Pollan's.
This is Your Mind on Plants.
Yeah, Your Mind on Plants. It's a good book.
I'm sure. I don't like Michael Pollan,
I'm
but
sure you
I
don't.
know Michael Pollan has had an important role to play, but overall, I don't necessarily think that he's Michael. If you are somehow listening to this, like, thank you for doing what you did for psychedelics,
Yep.
but whatever. I don't want to touch on it. It's a can of worms I don't want to get into. There's a lot of other really books on opium and opiates.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Okay, so
like in
let's
Fun fact, in
answer.
1986 or 89, the DEA raided Jefferson's Monticello estate and pulled all the opium poppies from his garden that had been growing there since he was like living there. Thomas Jefferson and his estate. Like the DEA did that. Like that's the absurdity of the drug war. Um,
So
it's
there
a
was
fun
just like
little
opium.
fact.
That's absolutely insane.
In his
Uh,
garden.
wow, that's crazy. Okay, so what we're going to do nowsies, we want to get some questions. Of course, if you send money, you'll get your question answered for sure, skis. And you don't have to send the whole $5, $10 that everyone else is. I appreciate that very much what you guys are doing. But anyone can ask questions as nerdy as you want. Go ham.
Yeah, I tried to do that while you were away, and I just like completely blanked. I couldn't say anything. So I need you, Meta.
Okay. Okay.
Are the same people listening to this from the beginning? Like this has gone on for a while. Like power to you all if you're still here.
Oh, brother, I was on here for like 5 hours. People will stay the full stream. People love just because it's also like people listen to this, but also there's probably a lot of them who are like just it's like background, relaxation type shit.
Did we mix kratom or kratom alkaloids with alcohol? You shouldn't mix any drug with alcohol. Alcohol makes things dangerous. Alcohol in itself is toxic and a known carcinogen.
Okay,
I mean,
tone it down, Grandma. Hold on.
I treasure my right to consume alcohol, but it's a bad drug, so you
Okay,
shouldn't mix it.
don't. Okay, is it like cocaine? Is mixing it like cocaine where you get like cocaethylene, or is it no?
No.
So it's generally not. It doesn't. We don't have any evidence of it going like extra bad or like anything like that.
No, it's not going to magically cause like addiction on like the first use or like you to keel over dead, but it's generally not a good thing to mix with anything. Ethanol.
I agree. Yeah. Um.
Also, synthetic versus natural, it tells you nothing about whether or not something is good or bad, harmful or safe. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Synthetic doesn't mean bad. Synthetic doesn't mean good. Natural doesn't mean good. Natural doesn't mean bad. It is meaningless, and it's a propaganda term that they're trying to feed into your emotions and away from your logical, function.
Someone said, I'd like recommendations on where to learn more about drugs. I'm really into studying psychedelics, but I know almost nothing about other drug stuff. In my opinion, and Soren can have his as well, it is a little bit hard. There's not like a website that we all go to become drug nerds. It's like a lot of us, we have been obsessed with this since we were kids. We grew up watching content. We watched stuff like Hamilton Morris. We went on Arrowhead. As a kid, we went on, there's websites.
Psychonaut Wiki.
Yep, second out Wiki. We have Reddit. Is honestly, it is like a lot of bullshit, but you do get a lot of good information as well. Watching Meta Bachet. Okay, you got any more, Soren?
Carl Hart is a
Carl Hart.
fantastic
Yep.
voice that counters sort of the psychedelic and natural drug elitism that is dominating the drug narrative right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's great that we're decriminalizing a lot of these natural medicines and legalizing cannabis and making ketamine a normal, non-stigmatized drug that benefits
Not
people.
Goblin.
Uh,
Not Goblin. No Goblin. And Kedzie Pan Pan, thank you as always, my love. Okay,
all of
sorry.
that stuff made absolutely no sense to me.
So,
Um,
you know the YouTuber Goblin?
I don't
What? You don't know Goblin?
know.
Oh my god, he doesn't know Goblin, chat. L's in chat. L's in chat. Goblin's like a he's like a I don't know, he was a degenerate as a child and basically his entire channel is just telling crazy drug stories of him doing crack or just insane stuff. But he's not
Okay.
super Goblin's not super informational to be honest. Like he's a lot of like drugs are crazy, bro. It's not really if you want to get into nerdy stuff, Goblin's not really the guy. But he's like fun for a good story. He's relaxing and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Um, but yeah, Carl's great. He
Carl
he
Hart.
has a very rational and liberty-centered perspective around drug and drug use. And it's very science informed because he's been a researcher of drugs and their effect on the brain and behavior for 30 years now.
Yeah, and Carl Hart he's a very good like bridge if you want to get into like research, like actual proper like academic research, but also understandably like if you're more into the pop, like he's on Joe Rogan sometimes and like he knows how to perform and like put on a show as far as like explaining things, but he's also like a legitimate researcher at Columbia University. So, he
Yeah,
informed me as a child massively, massively.
yeah, yeah. And Google Scholar, just read primary research on these drugs and
Yeah.
be super critical of them. Oftentimes, the abstracts do not reflect the results, and also scrutinize the methods. Because if someone says that cannabis is dangerous because they did a broad survey, and this is real, of like 100 or I don't know, like many thousands of people who consumed cannabis regularly. They found that the amygdala was slightly larger in the regular cannabis consumers. Therefore, cannabis was bad and harmful.
Mm.
But where does it say that having a slightly enlarged amygdala is problematic? There's absolutely no evidence or research on that. Also, maybe having an enlarged amygdala makes you a person
Lends
who
itself to.
desire
Yep.
to have cannabis in your system. Maybe cannabinoids really just mix super well with enlarged amygdalas. Like these are all sort of assumptions that are not addressed and are sort of hallucinated by the researchers because they're projecting their biases on top of it. And also, if you're a scientist and you're researching drugs, you're probably getting money from the National Institute of Drug Abuse, meaning every single piece of literature and research on drugs has had to been done within the framework of how can this drug be abused, which
Yep.
is a minority of the use cases surrounding the consumption of drugs in people. Most
Yep.
people don't abuse drugs or have problem with drugs when they use drugs. Even the quote unquote hard drugs like methamphetamine and heroin, of which I have done both, and I do not crave to do them regularly. And I thought that they had some benefits and some negatives because they are neutral, and my environment and what I'm bringing to it, what I believe about them, and how I'm feeling in the moment lend a more important role to the effect that I get from it than the drug itself.
Yep. And I was just telling Soren this off stage. Like Kratom and 7OH was really attracted to me about a month and a half ago or 2 months ago. And now like because I've just been kind of healing and just being a little bit less depressed, they don't feel that good. I've just kind of evolved and like they might become more appealing to me, in the future. But like, yeah, your state of mind changes and yeah, and Ugh. Someone says hate gob. If ethanol is banned with 7OH, I won't bitch. That's a
No,
pers-
no, but again, don't ban these
don't
things.
don't
Like,
don't.
even
uh
even if it could kill you, you should cherish the fact that you are being treated like an adult and you're not being infantilized by um you know someone with a monopoly on on police violence. Like people with guns should not be telling you what you can and can't do if it's only affecting your own bodily autonomy. Full stop, period. Whether that be abortion, whether that be drug use, like if it's affecting you and your body, people with guns shouldn't tell you what to do with it.
Oh, shore break, shore break. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, shore break. Y'all are two handsome gents. Oh, stop it. Thanks for spreading truth. Remove 708 from gas stations, smoke shops, but don't criminalize it. My opinion. He puts his opinion. Also, opium was significant reason for the downfall of the King dynasty. Goblin. Yeah. I don't know much. Actually, I would love to know more about the because I know the opium was used as like a tool to completely destabilize China and all that shit.
Gotta love the British. Also the Japanese screwed China with opium as well. And again, a lot of these things are not the fault of the drug itself, but rather the context in which they're packaged.
Well, what about
Um,
so? I mean, when I was watching Hamilton's Kratom one, he was talking to that one guy in Thailand, and he was saying that like even they were trying to fuck with like they were trying to use opium on the Thai people, and that's why they banned Kratom or something. It was
oh, yeah, Pascal Tingui, he's awesome. He's a really great harm reduction advocate and researcher and independent consultant on international drug laws based out of Thailand. But yes, I mean the history of Kratom in Thailand is incredibly fascinating. So Thailand, by nature of drug laws in the United States, sort of becomes a pivotal member of the Golden Triangle, this heroin trade.
mm,
It goes across the world. And so opium and heroin and opiates become a major part of the Thai economy, with a lot of people consuming opium regularly, which was highly taxed by the government. But people were habituated to it. They got it through the government monopoly. They paid their taxes. The government made a fuck ton of money from it. Um, Thailand is in the way of Japan's invasion into China during World War II. They go to war to fight, I believe, with the Axis powers because they didn't really have much of a choice. And then suddenly, every young man is drafted into the military to fight, and there's a lot less free money floating around. And the impossible happens, which is people stop using the physiologically dependence inducing opiates almost overnight. And that tax money during wartime suddenly dries up, and Parliament goes, "Oh, fuck, what's going on? We're losing a lot of money." They do a brief investigation, and there are exact quotes in the floor of Parliament by like the police general of Thailand saying, we're losing a lot of tax money because of opium sales because people are transitioning to the traditional medicine kratom instead of buying opium. So we need to prohibit kratom in Thailand. And so in 1943, Thailand prohibits kratom de facto, but they don't really do a ton of enforcement on it. Um, but then the drug war ramps up in the 1970s. They really criminalize kratom, and they actually cut down every single kratom tree that they could find in Thailand, except for this one sort of like legally ambiguous area of a national park where they're not allowed
mm,
to do anything. So there's
yeah.
only one old growth kratom forest left in Thailand as a result of the dangers of the drug war, all the way up until 2021, maybe 2023, where along with cannabis, Thailand re-legalized kratom.
Now,
Um,
what do you know why they re-legalized it?
um, Make a lot of money from it. Indonesia is making billions of dollars selling kratom, um, and Thailand is sort of like kratom like Mecca, like it is like the center of kratom consumption culture. And because of their prohibitionist laws, they were unable to profit from it. So they want to open that up. Um, and I'm actively in my business pursuing relationships with Thai kratom suppliers right now. Um, and so I'm
Huh.
very grateful for this change in law.
That's pretty sick. Yeah, I know Thailand's kind of on the up and up right now. People love Thailand. Thailand's like
Although
doing
they're recriminalizing cannabis.
what? Why?
I know, I know. Ask
Hmm.
the Jesus spots. They'll probably know. It's because it's a moral thing.
Oh, okay. Trying to think of any fun convos. Yeah, by the way, Soren, dude, killing it on concurrent viewers. 291 is pretty banging. Pretty banging.
Thank you all for, listening
I guess
and
they kind of
hearing us
like
out.
you. They kind of like you. Hmm. Oh, before we go or anything else, uh, what's the deal with Feel Free?
Feel free. An exceptionally popular Kratom and Kava product. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a can of worms. So they had a very similar problem in their marketing as the rest of the kratom industry and the 7-hydroxymetrageny industry today, and that they were disingenuous in their marketing of the product and telling people what was in it, and how to consume it, with intention so as to maximize benefits and reduce harms. They essentially, for many years, portrayed it to be a kava product that had other ancient plants and then minimized any sort of uh, labeling that said that there was kratom in it. Like if you go on the website, it was actually impossible to find mention of kratom up until like 2022. But apparently they've always had kratom on the back of the label. So from a legal perspective, they did what needed to be done. But and again, and this is also another thing. I don't want to essentially moralize and say feel free bad. They took advantage of people and they gave them telling was in there. Like the context of prohibition likely forced their hand on this. In order to sell a kratom product on the internet, you need to essentially say, like, you can't say kratom because kratom will get you pulled off of Google ads. Kratom will get you
Mm,
banned on Twitter. It'll get you banned on Facebook, on Instagram. Like, you
yeah.
can't say this word without getting your account restricted. So if you want to sell a product, you don't say kratom. And it's very possible that Jerry Ross, or that's his witness protect his name, what he did there wasn't because he was wanting to take advantage of people. He could have just been informed by a consultant group in some
You
marketing firm.
I'm gonna be honest. You sound like an apologist a little bit right now because I think we both know that
Well, I'm
like,
blaming prohibition on this. Like truly,
but
like
as
like
but
it's
but as
hard to reduce prohibition
but
from this.
but you're also giving too much credit because you're a good example of someone who does you have a kratom company that you do morally. That I talked to you and Carol about this. You guys go out of your way to be annoyingly moral. You're annoyingly moral, okay? You sacrifice money all the time to do the right thing, and then you have people like Feel Free who knows people are getting hooked not knowing anything about what's going on, and they don't give a flying fuck because they're just like
Yeah.
more sales.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's certainly the more cynical take on it, which is quite possibly the way that it is. I'm just saying that there's a generous reading and then there's a cynical reading. And the truth probably somewhere in the middle. Um, and then they made a ton of money selling this
Yeah.
product. They sort of became the face of Kratom. They started to split with the American Kratom Association, of which they were a large donor for, and then Jerry created the Global Kratom Coalition, which essentially was trying to was a competitor to the American Kratom Association, with their main schism being how restrictive the regulatory environment around Kratom needed to be, which the generous reading of the situation being that he feared that the lack of strict regulations around Kratom was going to result in what he liked to say endlessly, throwing out of the baby with the bathwater. All of Kratom would be thrown out because high potency extracts were harming people and giving a bad PR spin to it. And then the more cynical reading is that he needed to show some outside investors that the Kratom environment and market was secure for a period of time in order to exit and make a fortune from the sale of his successful company. There was a cynical reading, like he doesn't give a shit about anyone else other than being able to say California's market is secured for the near term. I'll sell it to someone else. Cynical reading versus generous reason. Truth, probably somewhere in the middle.
That was a very measured
But
way to
so
do that.
that's
Yeah, that's good.
the Global Kratom Coalition was a huge, 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 huge player in the act of prohibition towards 7-hydroxymetragenine. And they did the stupidest thing imaginable. And again, based probably possibly very generous reading. Out of fear, they had this campaign called Stop Gas Station Heroin, which they portrayed every single psychoactive product in gas stations, aside from their product, leaf kratom, as gas station heroin,
Mm.
and essentially laying this astroturf campaign of this public dissatisfaction around what is being sold in vape shops as groundwork for this announcement of prohibition. And now we're seeing how journalists are conflating what they tried to be a measured and precise takedown of non-leaf kratom products as being gas station heroin. The journalists, in their haste to publish articles about this act of prohibition, are saying all products are well established to be gas station heroin based on this fake campaign that the Global Kratom Coalition made. It's truly, um, and I told them this multiple times in meetings. I was a member 2 years, as well as the American Kratom Coalition. I participated in meetings and conversations with them, and I told them over and over and over again that this was a foolish idea, and it ended up biting them in the butt. They went ahead with it, and that was the bridge that burned with me and these people.
Mm.
And and it's doing the exact thing that I told them, not to just tout myself here. Like I hate that I'm in the
Yeah.
right here, but like gas station heroin is a term that's being applied to leaf kratom now. Like I
Yep.
told you guys.
Yep. Yep. That's what I when in Vanuatu, one of their things that they were upset with me with, they were like, well, like we hate that we're getting associated with kratom because kava like that, and they would actually quote it. They would say it's gas station heroin. Don't associate with us. And I'm like, no, 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 guys, no, no, no. It's not like that. Like you really don't need to be doing all that. But
Yeah, yeah, gas station heroin is just such like it's just like
that's a
um,
catchy term.
it's yeah, because it's taking advantage of these false beliefs that have been propagandized into the brains of the public. Like
Mm-hmm.
heroin should not be a scary term. Heroin has saved so many lives as a medicine.
Totally.
Um,
And
gas stations as a market for psychoactive substances, probably not ideal. If I were to design my utopia, I would sell psychoactive substances next to petrochemicals. But is it necessarily the downfall and collapse of society to sell things that make you feel good in places that people frequently traffic? No.
yeah,
And then combining those words, like it's meaningless. It doesn't actually convey educational information, which if you have a platform and you're spending money around drugs, you shouldn't be propagandizing people. You should be educating.
well, I'm trying to, and I agree. I fully
Love
agree.
you, Meta.
Love you too, Soren. Yeah, we have Michui's gonna show some fan art. Send it over, Michui. I wanna see it. I wanna see it. I'm looking on my Instagram. I'm not seeing it. Um, yeah. This was a successful live stream, I think. You did very good, Soren. You're a man of the people. People like you.
Couldn't have done it without you. And I'm glad we were able to make this in chain.
Yes, dude. We can do this again at a different topic too. Your nerdiness is valued very much.
Happily, if people would listen, um, yeah, that's all I
Do you
want to do.
do you have a channel that you want to shout out?
Um, I don't do a lot of public facing stuff. I was briefly convinced that I was going to do some public facing education and content in a channel I call Tea and Other Drugs. It has 4 podcasts out, 2 of which I think are really good. Um, I haven't released anything in a long time. I should release some more stuff, but no promises on cadence. Um,
Okay.
and I release op-eds on Marijuana Moment on occasion. And I've done most of my writing as blogs on toptreeherbs.com, which is our kratom tea and capsule company. Not standing here as a representative of that company right now because if I were selling you kratom tea, I would not be making any medical claims or anything like
Yeah.
that about kratom because it is truly just a thing that we can sell as a wellness adjunct, not as a thing to treat, cure, diagnose um,
Things.
illnesses. Yes, yes. But yeah, I've done a lot of writing there. Most of it is SEO related, not necessarily my finest work. But check out Meta's second channel, very niche Meta, for our last conversation
Yeah, we have
there.
a second channel,
Uh,
and it's like that the video that I did with him blew up. I mean, it's a small channel, but it had like no followers, and now we have like, I don't know, close to 10,000 or something because his ass. Oh, actually, I have to change something because you actually got some facts wrong.
oh,
Um,
please.
so apparently, so you said that salvia divinorum is technically an opioid because it acts on opioid receptors, correct?
The kappa opioid receptor, yeah.
Yeah, the kappa one. So apparently, the definition of opioid is not technically acting on opioid receptors, but it is by definition the acting on opioid, treating pain while acting on opioid receptors. Because I was like, I looked up multiple times. I know, but I looked up. I tried. I was like, because I wanted you to be right, and I was like, okay, is salvia technically an opioid? And like, obviously, these definitions, like, they're just words, but so it doesn't really matter like that. But it seems like opioid is not just acting on opioid receptors, but it is pain reduction and opioid receptors. From what I read.
Yeah,
Ooh, so organic farming says no, Meta, you're wrong.
and then the distinction between opiates and opioid. Sorry, I think I lost you for a second. But you know, like another thing that people nitpick on, which there's just different like camps and beliefs, and there's nothing as like set in stone, is opiate versus opioid. Opiate derived from poppy,
Yep.
opioid being something that interacts with the opioid receptor. You know, you can find some textbooks that define the split that way, and then you can find others that do not make that demarcation whatsoever. So it depends who you
Oh,
talk to,
interesting. That's
whether
a
or
good
not you
point.
can find that split.
That's a good point.
So
And someone saying meta opiate and opioid mean two different things. I know that. I've had multiple things on my videos about that. Okay, I know the difference between them, but yeah, it is. Even doctors get them mixed up where they'll call an opiate an opiate an opiate. It doesn't. It's it doesn't.
mm,
They're words. They're words. Is.
but it is a kappa opioid agonist, salvia, and it's
Yes.
psychedelic as a result
And
of that in a very weird thing. Yeah,
cool.
cool.
Well, bye.
Fading out here. Yeah, it was great chatting to a crowd of people that I can't see.
Yeah, yeah. You can look back and read all the crazy comments.
I will not.
Okay, bro. Talk to you later, bro. I'll talk to you.
Talk to you later.
Peace,
Cheerio.
man. Isn't he great, guys? Isn't he the best? I love Soren. Soren's the bestest of the best. And someone sent. Okay, general. Okay, me Chewy. I just accepted. Wait, no, don't go, me Chewy. Don't go. No. I'm reacting. I want it. Send me your thing. Send me your thing. Your fan art. I want to. I don't. I want to see this. I want to see this fan art. Yeah, and for everyone, wondering about like, hold on. Does it look okay? Cool. My lives, I do stream on Twitch now. I like do like gaming and chilling and whatever on Twitch. But on here, I'm going to try to do more like proper interviews with like PhDs or experts, so like we can get a lot of value out of these lives because I think these lives are really interesting. They're really awesome. Michui, I accepted your thing. Okay. Oh shit. This is really good. Wait, you guys have to see this. Hold on. How do I even do this? Okay. This is really good. Wow. This is the art. Hold on. Hold on. Dang, this is really good. Wow. Makes me look suave as hell. Shit. Bam. That's pretty cool. You got the little curl in the front too. How long did it take you to do that? This is kind of insane. This is awesome. Okay. Yeah. I think I'm kind of done. If anyone has any further questions, I think I'm streaming. I think I might go play Spider-Man on my Twitch. That game is kind of fun. It's kind of boring, but it's all right. Twitch is so fun. Twitch is so fun. So go on Twitch. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, bye. See ya. Toodly-doo. Bye-bye.